If your heart feels heavy tonight, this psalm is for you. Not because something dramatic happened, not because everything fell apart, but because your mind won't slow down. There are nights when your body is tired, but your thoughts refuse to rest. You lie down, you close your eyes, and suddenly, everything you managed to avoid during the day comes rushing back. Conversations you replay, decisions you second guess, fears you didn't invite. The world gets quiet, but your mind gets loud. And in moments like this, people don't need advice. They don't need explanations. They don't need motivation. They need calm. That's why this psalm exists. For centuries, people have turned to these words in moments exactly like yours. Moments of restlessness, moments of anxiety, moments when your mind feels overcrowded and peace feels distant. There's a reason many say, this psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes. Not because it magically removes problems, but because it redirects your focus away from fear and back to trust. Modern life constantly trains your mind to stay alert. Notifications, deadlines, news, responsibilities. Even when nothing is happening, your nervous system stays activated, and slowly, calm begins to feel unfamiliar. Psalm 4 was written for this state of mind. It speaks to people who are overwhelmed internally. Even if everything looks fine on the outside, people who are doing their best, yet still feel mentally exhausted. Think about your mind right now. Is it racing ahead to tomorrow? Is it replaying the past? Is it trying to control outcomes that haven't arrived yet? Psalm 4 doesn't argue with your thoughts. It gently interrupts them. Hidden inside this psalm is a rhythm that slows the mind, a reminder that peace is not something you force. It's something you receive. That's why so many believers return to it before sleep. That's why so many whisper it in moments of anxiety. That's why this psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes, when nothing else seems to work, because it shifts authority. Instead of fear speaking first, trust does. Instead of worry setting the pace, rest does. Psalm 4 begins by acknowledging distress. It doesn't pretend you're fine. It recognizes pressure. It recognizes inner tension. It recognizes a human need for reassurance. And then, line by line, it guides the mind towards stillness, not through force, but through truth. This psalm doesn't demand silence from your thoughts. It gives them somewhere safe to land. And as we move forward, this is not something to rush. Let the words breathe. Let the pauses work. In the next block, we will enter Psalm 4 itself, slowly, intentionally, with space for your mind to follow. Stay here, because if your mind feels restless tonight, there's a reason you are listening now. And this psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes, not by accident, but by design. Now slow everything down. You don't need to fix your thoughts. You don't need to silence them. Just listen. This psalm was written for moments like this, when the mind feels restless and the heart needs reassurance. There's a reason people say, this psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes, because it speaks directly to inner tension. Psalm 4, answer me when I call to you, my righteous God. Pause here. This opening line is not aggressive. It is honest. It acknowledges pressure without pretending strength. You have relieved me in my distress. Have mercy on me and hear my prayer. Notice what the psalm does first. It remembers relief. Before asking for peace, it recalls moments when peace already came. This alone begins to calm the mind, because anxiety often forgets that relief has ever existed. How long will you people turn my glory into shame? How long will you love delusions and seek false gods? This is not accusation. It is clarity. The psalm gently confronts false sources of reassurance. Modern minds chase reassurance everywhere. News, control, overthinking, comparison. Psalm 4 exposes that cycle. Without judgment, it redirects attention. Know that the Lord has set apart his faithful servant for himself. The Lord hears when I call to him. This line slows the nervous system. You are not speaking into silence. You are not unheard. That truth alone explains why this psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes. Because fear loses strength when it is no longer alone. Tremble and do not sin. When you are on your beds, search your hearts and be silent. This verse is powerful for night. It does not say, force your thoughts away. It says, bring them into stillness. Stillness is not emptiness. It is alignment. Offer the sacrifices of the righteous and trust in the Lord. Trust is introduced gently here, not as demand, but as invitation. Trust replaces effort. Many, Lord, are asking, who will bring us prosperity? This question still exists today. Who will bring security? Who will bring peace? Who will bring certainty? Psalm 4 does not mock the question. It answers it calmly. Let the light of your face shine on us. Light in Scripture is not pressure. It is clarity. It allows the mind to rest because it removes guessing. You have filled my heart with greater joy than when their grain and new wine abound. This is an inner joy, not dependent on circumstances, not dependent on outcomes. That's why this psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes, even when problems remain unsolved, because peace here does not require resolution. I will lie down and sleep in peace. For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. This is the climax of the psalm, not victory, not answers. Sleep, rest, safety. The psalm ends exactly where anxious minds want to be, not alert, not vigilant, at rest. This verse has been whispered by countless people before sleep. That is why Psalm 4 has been read for centuries at night. That is why this psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes when read slowly, not because it changes reality, but because it changes how you experience it. As these words settle, notice your breathing. It may feel slower, deeper. That is not coincidence. That is the psalm doing what it has always done. In the next block, we will bring this psalm into modern life, into anxiety, into overthinking, into mental exhaustion, because ancient words still calm modern minds. Now let's bring this psalm out of the ancient world and into your daily life, because Psalm 4 didn't calm minds centuries ago by chance. It does so because it addresses the same mental patterns people still struggle with today: overthinking, restlessness, mental noise, the inability to switch off. Modern anxiety often feels invisible. Nothing is technically wrong, yet your mind refuses to rest. You replay conversations. You imagine outcomes. You prepare for problems that may never happen. Psalm 4 recognizes this state when it says, when you are on your beds, search your hearts and be silent. It is describing a moment every anxious person knows well: the bed, the place where distractions end and thoughts begin. This psalm does not fight that moment. It meets it. It gives your thoughts a direction instead of trying to suppress them. That is one of the reasons this psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes. It doesn't tell you to stop thinking. It tells you where to place your thoughts. Modern life encourages constant stimulation. Even rest is filled with screens, information, and noise. Psalm 4 offers a different rhythm. It invites silence without pressure. Silence here does not mean emptiness. It means safety. When the psalm speaks of trust, it is not asking you to understand everything. It is asking you to release responsibility. for outcomes you cannot control. That is crucial for mental calm, because overthinking is often the mind trying to protect you. Psalm 4 gently tells the mind, you are not alone in this. That reassurance alone begins to slow racing thoughts. You have filled my heart with greater joy. This joy is internal, not dependent on success, not dependent on certainty, not dependent on external calm. Modern minds often wait for life to settle before allowing peace. Psalm 4 reverses that order. It allows peace first. That is why this psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes. Even when circumstances remain unresolved, it teaches the nervous system that safety is not conditional. Another powerful aspect of Psalm 4 is how it reframes security. I will lie down and sleep in peace. For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. This line directly addresses the fear beneath anxiety, the fear that if you relax, something will go wrong. Psalm 4 confronts that belief without aggression. It replaces it with trust. Modern anxiety often tells you that rest is dangerous. Psalm 4 tells you that rest is possible because you are not the sole guardian of your life. This is why so many people return to this psalm at night. This is why parents pray it over children, why anxious minds return to it repeatedly. Because this psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes by shifting the source of safety away from your vigilance and back to God's presence. It does not promise that tomorrow will be easy. It promises that tonight can be peaceful. That distinction matters. Peace does not require certainty. It requires trust. As you apply this psalm to your life, you don't need to change everything. You don't need perfect discipline. You don't need flawless faith. You only need to let these words interrupt your mental noise, one verse at a time, one breath at a time. In the next block, we will slow everything down again, because repetition is how calm becomes familiar, and familiar calm is what keeps people listening, resting, and returning. Stay here for a moment longer. You don't need new information now. You need familiarity. Because the mind does not calm down by being convinced. It calms down by being reassured. That is why Psalm 4 repeats ideas, why it returns to silence, trust, and safety, why it ends with rest. This repetition is not accidental. It is neurological. It is emotional. It is spiritual. And this is one of the deepest reasons. This psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes. Let the words return slowly. Answer me when I call to you. This is not a cry of panic. It is a reminder of relationship. You are not calling into emptiness. You are not thinking alone. Even when your thoughts feel crowded, you are not isolated inside them. That awareness begins to soften mental tension. You have relieved me in my distress. The psalm intentionally looks backward before asking for peace now. Anxious minds tend to forget that relief has ever existed. This line gently corrects that distortion. It reminds your mind, calm has visited you before, and what happened before can happen again. That repetition builds trust. When you are on your beds, be silent. This line deserves to be heard again, because the bed is where thoughts accelerate, where distractions disappear, where control feels fragile. Psalm 4 does not shame this moment. It meets it. It gives permission to stop striving mentally. Silence here is not forced. It is invited. Invited silence is safe silence. Offer trust. Trust is repeated, because anxiety is persistent. The psalm does not assume. You will trust perfectly the first time. It returns to trust, the same way fear returns to worry. This is why repetition matters. Every time the psalm repeats trust, it weakens fear's authority. The Lord hears when I call. Hearing implies attention, care, presence. That truth, repeated gently, lowers the mind's need to stay alert, because vigilance is often rooted in feeling unseen. Psalm 4 dissolves that fear slowly. You have filled my heart with joy. This joy is not excitement. It is stability. It does not rise and fall with circumstances. It holds steady beneath them. That is why this psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes, even when nothing externally changes, because it introduces an internal anchor. I will lie down and sleep in peace. Hear that again. Lie down, sleep, peace. These words are placed deliberately at the end of the psalm, not as a suggestion. As a conclusion, the psalm assumes that rest is a natural outcome of trust. Modern life often reverses this. It tells you, rest only when everything is solved. Psalm 4 says, rest because you are not alone in what remains unsolved. That is a radical message for anxious minds. Let the loop settle again. You are not responsible for holding everything together tonight. You are allowed to rest your mind without fear, even if answers are incomplete, even if tomorrow feels uncertain. This repetition is doing its work. You may notice your breathing slowing, your thoughts spacing out, your body releasing tension. That is not imagination. That is what happens when safety becomes familiar. Let the core truth loop gently. You are heard. You are seen. You are safe enough to rest. Again, you are heard. You are seen. You are safe enough to rest. This is not denial. It is trust learned through repetition. In the final block, we will invite you to respond gently, not with effort, not with pressure, but with honesty before you leave this moment. Don't rush back into noise. Stay just a little longer, because what you experienced here was not just a reading, it was a shift. There is a reason people say, this psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes, not because it distracts you, not because it overwhelms your thoughts, but because it gives your mind permission to stop guarding everything. If your thoughts feel quieter right now, even slightly, that matters. Peace doesn't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it arrives gently, and that gentle arrival is often what lasts. Now I want to invite you into something simple, not performative, not complicated, just honest. If Psalm 4 spoke to your mind tonight, it's because something inside you needed rest. So take a quiet moment and ask yourself, what keeps my mind restless? Not what sounds spiritual, not what you think you should say. What actually returns when everything gets quiet? Is it anxiety about tomorrow? Fear of making the wrong decision? Mental exhaustion from carrying too much responsibility? You don't have to explain it perfectly. If you feel comfortable, I invite you to write a comment. It can be one sentence. It can be one word. It can even be amen. If that's all you have the energy for, writing it down often releases some of its weight. And when one person shares, another realizes they're not alone in their thoughts. That shared quiet is powerful. Before we close, let's return one last time to the heart of this psalm, not as repetition, but as rest. You are not unheard. You are not required to solve everything tonight. You are allowed to let your mind rest without fear. Psalm 4 ends with sleep because peace is not meant to be temporary. It is meant to carry you into rest. And this psalm will calm your mind in 5 minutes, not because your life suddenly becomes easy, but because your mind learns it does not need to stay alert forever. As this video ends, you don't need to hurry. If you want, let it replay, not because you missed something, but because calm deepens with familiarity. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying. May your thoughts quiet. May your breathing slow. May you rest tonight